Hey everybody, I'm Josh Jackson from WPSculptor.com. In this comprehensive video tutorial, I'm going to walk you through step by step on how to create a custom website and or blog with WordPress. I'll also be using a wonderful free WordPress theme called Hueman. If you find the video useful, please like the video on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, add the video as a favorite, and leave your comments in the comment section below. These things really help me out. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy. This comprehensive video tutorial will include setting up a domain name and hosting account with a company called HostGator.com and getting your first month of web hosting for just 1 cent. Installing WordPress on your hosting account. Installing and utilizing the powerful and responsive free theme called Hueman. Configuring basic WordPress settings. Creating pages. Specifying which page is your home page. Creating navigation menus with drop-down functionality. Choosing a sidebar layout, finding and using free high-quality stock photos, using the visual editor to add images to your pages, format text, and create links with your images and text, using a free online photo editing application called Pixlr to resize your images, using shortcodes to further customize your pages, embedding responsive YouTube videos onto your site, using plugins and installing a contact form, installing an image gallery plugin, using basic HTML code to create HTML tables, coming up with professional color schemes with a free online resource, creating a logo with a free online application called iPiccy, using widgets and widget areas to add additional functionality to your site, configuring social media icons, setting up an optional blog and controlling comment settings, organizing your blog with categories, using the featured post option and other blogging functionalities included with the Hueman theme, using advanced layouts to fully control widgets and widget areas on any given post or page. Alright, this is the exact same website I'm going to show you how to create step by step without skipping anything. And the first thing we'll do is set up our domain name and hosting account with a company called HostGator.com. Now, my actual domain that I own is quickwebsitecreation.com, but for the purposes of this video tutorial, and since I don't want to have to purchase a new domain name for every video tutorial that I make, I'm using a subdomain, but you'll have your own domain name. And then I'll show you how to install WordPress onto your hosting account, and we will also install the Hueman theme, the free Hueman theme, which is the wonderful theme that we're using here. And one of the great things about this theme is that it's very responsive, so it's going to look great on your mobile devices. And just to demonstrate that, if we resize this, you can see that our menus turn into these really nice mobile menus like that, and everything resizes very nicely. Looks very clean and organized. So that's going to be one of the great features of the Hueman theme. And I'm also going to show you how to create this logo with a free online application, and then we'll cover basic WordPress settings like this tagline that you see here. You'll be able to come up with your own tagline. And I've got a color scheme that I found by using a free online resource that we're going to cover to come up with the color scheme. You can see that the header menu here has its own color, then my actual header has its own color, and then I've got my background color here is its own color, and my sidebar at the top here is this orange, and all of that is completely customizable, so you'll be able to really have a lot of control over the look and feel of your site by choosing your own color scheme and adding your own logo. And of course we'll create our navigation menus. There are actually 3 spots in this theme for navigation menus, so you'll be able to do that, and we'll create drop-down menus as well. And then you'll be able to link not only to pages on your site, but to anywhere on the web, and I've demonstrated that by creating a navigation menu with these 3 up at the top here that link to other pages on the web besides our site. I'm going to show you how to embed YouTube videos, and not only embed YouTube videos onto your site, but also make sure that they're responsive so that they look good on mobile devices. And we're going to be covering, of course, creating pages and adding content to our pages, and a couple of cool things. We're going to cover shortcodes, which those are going to allow you to do what's called a drop cap here, where we've made our W really large, and that's just a cool effect that you can utilize if you choose to. And also a pull quote. This right here is an example of a pull quote using a shortcode. We're going to cover that, and also we'll be setting up our social media icons, and you can choose whichever social media icons you want to use. I've got Facebook and Twitter here that link to Facebook and Twitter. You'll be able to link to your own account, but again, you can choose from any different social media site that you have and put the icon up. And then we'll create a custom widget in our sidebar that's got a picture with a link, and the picture is actually a link if you want to click on the picture. And then we've got some text here. And then we've got a pages widget, so we're going to be covering all that you need to know about widgets and widget areas. And then we've got a blog categories widget that we'll set up. And then we've got our footer area, and you can have different widgets in your footer area. We're going to go over all of that. And if we click and look at our About page, I'm going to show you how to put in images into your pages and then wrap text around your images like this. And then we'll be adding captions to our images that you see there, and also using shortcodes again to add different columns to your content. Another great feature. And then of course making any text a link like you see there, using bullet lists, all sorts of things. And if we move on, let's look at the contact page. I'm going to show you how to use a contact form plugin, and this will, when your users fill out this form and send it, it's going to send a copy of this form to the email address that you provide. And then the HTML table is something that's pretty cool. I'm going to show you how to use some basic HTML code to create tables such as this. Of course, this is completely optional, but it's a good way to get your feet wet with HTML if you're not familiar with HTML code. So we're going to be going over that. Then I'm going to show you how to use an image gallery plugin. And that's going to create thumbnails, and you can have captions on your images if you want to. And when you click on these images, they're going to open up in this really nice looking light box that you see here. And you can scroll through and look at the different images that you put in your galleries, and you can have as many galleries as you want and as many photos in those galleries as you want to. And then if we look at our blog page, this is an optional feature that comes with WordPress if you want to have a blog. I'm going to show you how to use the Hueman blog settings to have featured blog posts here, and you can have as many different featured posts as you want, and that's going to turn into this nice slider. And then we've got our thumbnails and our blog titles and our blog excerpts. We're going to go over all of the blog settings that you need to know, and you'll be able to organize your blogs into different categories like you see here. And we'll go over all the discussion settings, so all the comment settings that you'll need to know about blog posts. That's all going to be covered. And then of course we've got the blog widgets that come with the Hueman theme, and these are pretty cool. You can have your most popular posts, you can have your recent posts showing up there, and then we can have some more posts showing up there on the sidebar. And then one thing, if you notice, we've got a different sidebar on our blog page than we did on our other pages. And this theme allows you to have complete control over which widgets show up on any given post or page. So we're going to be covering a lot of advanced layout options that you have with the Hueman theme. And all this is going to be covered step by step without skipping anything, so that everyone will be able to easily follow along and replicate these steps exactly. The first thing we're going to do is purchase our hosting account and our domain name. And for that, I highly recommend using a company called HostGator.com. They have a wonderful service and they've got excellent pricing. So go ahead and go to HostGator.com. And when you get there, scroll down a little bit and you'll see that you can click on View Web Hosting Plan starting at $396 there, or we can click on Web Hosting here, either way. And if you scroll down here, you'll see that we've got three different options to choose from: the hatchling plan, the baby plan, and the business plan. Now the hatchling plan is going to be your cheapest plan, and you can only have one domain hosted on that account. The baby plan is the same as the hatchling plan, except for you can host as many different domains on that one account as you want to, and your price is going to be the same. And then the business plan has this free private security feature and toll-free number that are all included with that. It's a little bit more expensive. Most people probably don't need that, so I usually recommend going with the baby plan. And I'm actually going to show you how to get more than 20% off on your hosting. But go ahead and click on Order Now. Alright, and then if you don't have a domain name already, this is where you need to register for one. And a domain name is like Amazon.com or Google.com. Those are domain names, so you have to choose one that's not already taken. And the domain name that I already own is quickwebsitecreation.com. Now, since I don't want to have to buy a new domain name every time I make a new video, I am going to use a subdomain, but in your case, you'll want to choose a domain name. And just to show you what it'll look like, if I wanted neatcitiestosee.com, it would tell me if that's available or not. And you can see that this particular domain is available. And if I wanted to change this from .com, I could do that to .net, .org, .info, or .biz there. And this is a really minimal cost too. It's only $12.95 and that covers you for a whole year. And if you already own your domain, just check this box here. And if you've got it with a company like GoDaddy, for example, just check that box there and go ahead and proceed with the checking out with your hosting account. And HostGator will send you special instructions on how to connect your domain to your hosting account. But we'll just stick with this for now. Again, the neatcitiestosee.com is just for demo purposes. And then scroll down and make sure your package type is correct. We did want the baby plan. And the billing cycle here, I like to pay monthly and keep my startup costs as small as possible. So I'm going to choose 1 month. And I've actually got a coupon code that's going to give you more of a discount than that. So we're just going to stick with 1 month there. And then for your username, go ahead and fill that out. Just make sure it fits these criteria here. And then you'll need a security pin. I'm just going to use 1, 2, 3, 4. And then scroll down and put in your billing information. Make sure all of this is accurate, obviously, and make sure your email is one that you can easily access, because HostGator will be sending you some really important information about your account after you sign up here. And then you can pay with a credit card or you can pay with PayPal. Either way there, just fill out your information and scroll on down. And I like to usually recommend just going ahead and unchecking these hosting add-ons. You can always add these later, and for most people starting out, you probably don't need that. You definitely might, just something to note there. And then scroll down, and this spot here for the coupon code, this code SNAPPY gives you 20% off your hosting account. Well, I've got a couple of different coupon codes here, and most people, especially if you're paying just for 1 month at a time, would use WP Sculptor 1 cent right there, and then if you hit validate, that's going to give you your first month of web hosting for just 1 cent. Okay, so instead of 20% off your entire hosting order, it's giving you your first month of web hosting for just 1 cent. So if you're just paying by the month, this is probably going to be your best value. Now, if you're paying for multiple months at a time, I would recommend using the coupon code WP Sculptor 25 and hit validate, and that's going to give you 25% off your entire hosting order. So if you buy in advance, if you buy several months in advance, you'll save more money that way than if you used the 1 cent coupon code, the WP Sculptor 1 cent coupon code. But we'll stick with WP Sculptor 1 cent. Click validate. And then if you scroll down here, oh, and by the way, I do want to point out this coupon code will not only give you a discount, but it also helps me, it helps support me for referring you to HostGator. I get a small commission for doing that, and I really appreciate that. That's a great way to help support these videos and also give yourself more of a discount. And then if we scroll down, you'll notice that you do get the free 24/7 support. You get the instant account activation, the 45 days to decide whether or not you want to continue with HostGator, and I'm sure you will. And then you'll see that our first month is just 1 cent, and then with the baby plan, after that first month, you're going to be billed $9.95 a month, and then our domain registration is going to cost $12.95, and that's going to cover you for a whole year, so you won't have to worry about that for a while. And our total is $12.96. Check this box there. I've read and agreed to the terms and conditions, and then click Create Account. Alright, so give HostGator about 15 minutes or so to set up your hosting account, and then check the email that you provided, and you should have an email from HostGator. Alright, so after about 15 minutes, go ahead and check your email, and you should have an email from sales@hostgator.com with your account info. Go ahead and click on that, and you'll see that you'll have several different links here. What you want to click on is the link to your control panel, and that should open up in a new tab. And then go back to your email, and the username is what you specified, so go ahead and copy and paste that in. And then the password is going to be something random that HostGator comes up with, and you'll want to copy, make sure you get all the characters and no additional characters that aren't there. You'll copy and paste that in. Now, of course, I've actually changed mine already, but you'll just copy and paste that in under password, and then click on login. And this is going to take you to your cPanel, and that's your control panel for your hosting account. Go ahead and exit out of these messages. Now, to install WordPress, what you're going to do is scroll down, and underneath software/services, you'll see this quick install icon. Go ahead and click on that. Now, you won't have all these things here on the side. That's just because I've got several different installations of WordPress running on my hosting account, which you can do as well if you have the Hatchling plan. Go ahead and click on WordPress, because that's what we want to install, and then you're going to click on continue. And then right here, you'll just have the one option, and that'll be your domain name that you just registered. Now, I've got several different subdomains created, of course, so I'm going to install this on cities.quickwebsitecreation.com. So that's going to be my URL, cities.quickwebsitecreation.com, and that's going to be eventually my home page for my website. I like to just go ahead and uncheck enable auto upgrades, and then you want to give your email. This is for your account with your WordPress site. Give your website a blog title. You can always change this. We're going to call this places to visit, and then a username, and your first and your last name, and then you'll get an email to this email address that you put in with your password. And actually, you'll get a temporary password after we install this. But go ahead and click on install now. Alright, and after a minute or so, it says congratulations, your installation is ready. And this, we have our username and we have our password. And now to log in to the back end of our website, we can either click right here, and this is just your domain name.com or whatever the ending of your domain is, /wp-admin. And you can type that into the admin bar or to the URL bar up here as well, but we can just click on this link to get to that. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this password before I do that. You definitely want to get that. And we will, of course, change that to something you can actually remember. And be sure and save that password so that you have it, because we're actually going to have to wait. Usually it takes about 2 hours, sometimes more, sometimes less, for your domain name to do what's called propagate. So it actually won't be accessible. So we'll have to wait a couple of hours, and then we'll check back in and see if our site's ready. Alright, so after a couple of hours, our site should now be ready, and we'll know if it's ready if we can click on this link here, and it actually takes us to our login screen. But go ahead and click on this link to log in to the back end of your website, and put in your username, and then paste in that password. Click on login. Alright, this is the back end of our website, and this is where all of the changes that we make will be made. And what we have here, if we look up here, this is the admin bar. It stretches across. And if you wanted to log out, you just go over here, hover over that, and click on log out. And then this button here, places to visit, it says that because that is the name of my website. That's the name I gave it. So yours will say whatever you named it. Click on that. That's going to take you to the front end of your site. And this is what a brand new fresh installation of WordPress looks like. This is the new 2014 theme. And obviously we're going to change this up entirely. We're going to add a new theme and completely change this. But I just want to point out that this admin bar will disappear when you log out. And you can switch back and forth between the front end of your site and the back end by using this same button here. So click on that again to be taken back to the back end. Alright, we're going to take care of just a couple of things before we really get started here. The first thing I want to do is go to plugins and click on installed plugins. We're going to deactivate and remove a plugin. It's actually a really good plugin called WP Super Cache. And what this does is it really speeds up your website, which is great for a lot of different reasons. Obviously, usability is a huge reason for wanting to have a good high-speed website, but some of you may not see your changes that you make to your site right away, so we're going to go ahead and deactivate that, so that's not a problem. Click on deactivate, and you can always reactivate and reinstall this. We're just going to go ahead and remove it entirely by deleting it. You can always reinstall this later. We're going to talk about plugins and how to use those, but click on yes to remove all the files. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is change our password to something we can actually remember. So to do that, go to Users and click on All Users. And your username will be there. It should be the only one. Click on it and then scroll down. And then right here we can set a new password. So go ahead and type in your new password. And then type it in again there. In that box below it. Click on Update Profile. And then also on the same screen, the user screen, when you click on your username, at the top here you have these different options that you can set to change the appearance of the back end. So for example, you can make it light, that changes it to that color scheme. You could just experiment with these. I'm just going to leave mine to the default. And then of course you'll go back down and you'll need to update the profile if you do make a change there. Alright, and then the last duty that we need to take care of is changing our tagline. If you go to the front end of your site and click on that, you'll see that just another WordPress site is currently the tagline, and that is by default. So we're going to change that to something that's relevant to our website. So go back to your back end by clicking on that button and click on Settings, and we're going to go to General. Click on General. And then right here, next to tagline, change that to whatever you'd like. I'm going to change mine to neat cities to visit, period. And then I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to click on Save Changes. Alright, and now if we go to the front end of our site by clicking there, you'll see that our tagline has changed to neat cities to visit. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is go back to our back end, and we are going to install the Hueman theme that we're going to be using. Now that's one of the wonderful things about WordPress, is that there are thousands of themes available, and many are free that you can use to change the look and feel of your website. Now we could go to Appearance Themes and then click on Add New. And we could search for the Hueman theme in the WordPress directory and it would show up, and we could install it that way, but the version on the WordPress directory is the light version. Now, to get the full version, and it's still free, you go to the developer's website. I'm going to exit out of these tabs and open a new tab. And that is, his website is alxmedia.se. So just type that in. And then you're going to click on Themes. And then you're going to scroll down and you're going to click on Hueman right here. This is the Hueman theme. Scroll down a bit more, and right here you could click on download, or you could right click or control click if you're using a Mac. That's what I'm doing, and then click on save link as, and then you want to save this somewhere where you can find it. I'm just going to save it to my desktop. Now be sure and don't open that file. It's a .zip file, and if you try to open it, your computer might try to unzip the file, which won't work when you go back to upload it. So we're going to go back to the back end here, and we're going to click on Upload, and then we're going to browse, and we're going to find the file on our hard drive. Select the file, click on Open, and then click on Install Now. Alright, and now that the theme's installed, it's still not activated, so just click on Activate to activate the theme. Now if we go to look at the front end of our website, you'll see that the look and feel is completely different now. It's got all the same content, but which is not much, it's just the default content, but it's got a completely different theme to it. I also want to point out that this theme has the left sidebar populated with these widgets, and that's by default. We will have complete control over this area, and we'll customize that later. And then also the right sidebar is unpopulated. It's there, but it's unpopulated. And this theme by default uses two sidebars, which again we'll have complete control over how many sidebars we have. And also the blue and the green is the default color scheme here. We will have complete control over that as well. So we'll be making a lot of different changes to this, a lot of different customizations to this website. Before we get into customizing our website, we're going to dive in and create our pages. So to do that, go back to your back end. And to create a page, you're going to go to Pages and then click on Add New. Now, right now we're just going to create our pages. We're going to actually add content to these pages here in a moment, but first we'll just create them. So let's start with what will become our home page, and we're going to call this Welcome. And then we're just going to click on Publish, and that's going to create that welcome page. Alright, and then we're going to add new by either going here under Pages, click on Add New, or we can just click on Add New here. And this is going to be our About page, so we're going to call this About Places to Visit. And then I'm going to click on Publish. And then I'm going to click on Add New. Create our contact page, and then I'm just going to call it Contact Us. Click on Publish. Then we'll create our blog page, what will become our blog page eventually. And you don't have to have a blog, of course, it's completely optional. But I'm going to create a blog page just to show you how to use it. So we'll name that blog, click on Publish, and then I believe we have 2 more pages that we're going to use. The image gallery, click on Publish, and then the last one's going to be the HTML table page. And with that page, you'll learn how to use HTML code to create a table. And click on Publish. Alright, now to see a list of all the pages that we have on our site, all you do is just go to Pages and then click on All Pages. And right here, you'll see all those pages that we just created. And you'll notice you'll have this sample page, and obviously we didn't create that sample page. That came with WordPress by default. So when we installed WordPress, we got this sample page, and we also got the first sample blog post that we'll delete later. But to delete the sample page, hover over it here, and it'll bring up this set of options. Click on Trash, and that won't actually delete the page entirely. It's still going to be in this trash folder, and we could click on that trash folder and restore the page from there if we wanted to, but at least it takes it off this list of our pages here. And now later when we go back and add content to our pages, we would just click on the page we want to edit to be taken to the page editor for that page, and we're right back here at this screen. So just go to Pages, All Pages, and you'll have complete access over all the pages that you have already created. Now if we go back to the front end of our website, you'll notice that nothing has changed. And this is because although we've created our pages, we haven't told WordPress where to put them. And what we need to do is create navigation menus and then assign them to the correct places in the theme. Also notice that the home page is showing, it's actually set up to show the blog page. And this is by default. WordPress home pages by default, when you install them at the beginning, they show the home page. So whatever your domain is .com is showing the blog page. And since we haven't created any blog posts, we have this sample blog post that's showing. So we're going to change this, and we're going to make this home page show our welcome page that we've created. So to do that, and we'll create our menus after that, but to create our home page and make our home page show the welcome page, go back to your back end, and we are going to go to Settings and then click on Reading. Alright, and like I said, by default the front page displays your latest posts, and that just means your front page basically is your blog page. We want our front page to be a static page, so we're going to click on a static page and then select below. So our front page, we can choose from all the pages that we've created, and we want it to be our welcome page. And then now if you want to have a blog but you don't want it to be on your home page or your front page, that's synonymous, then here you would select which page you want to be your posts page. And we created a page called blog. That's the page that we want to be our blog, so we're going to select it there. And we're going to scroll down here and click on Save Changes. Alright, and now if we go back and look at the front end of our site, you'll see that our home page now is showing our welcome page, because that's what we specified to be our front page. Now let's go back and create our menus. Now most of the different WordPress themes that I've used in the past automatically add whatever pages you create to the main menu. And the Hueman theme doesn't do that, which is actually, I consider that a good thing, because a lot of times what happens is people will wind up with a whole bunch of pages that they don't want, or pages in just completely out of order on their navigation menu when it's added by default. Now, if it is added by default that way, you can always, of course, create a menu like we're about to do and override that. But for us, we need to create our menu from scratch. So to do that, go to Appearance and then click on Menus. And we are going to create a menu, and we're going to name it. That's the first thing we're going to do, and we're going to call it Main Navigation Menu. And then click on Create Menu. Alright, and then we're going to add pages to our menu. And over here on the left, you'll have a list of all the pages that we have available to us, all the pages that we've created. I'm just going to select all of these because I want all of these to be part of my main navigation menu. And then click on, and you could also just do select all, it'd be easier. Click on Add to Menu. Alright, and then we need to assign the menu to the correct place in the theme. And different themes will have different places where you can put your menus. And this theme has 3 different locations. We've got a top bar, a header menu, and a footer menu. I'm just going to click on all 3 of these so that this same menu gets assigned to all 3 locations. And then I'm going to click on Save Menu. And now if we go back and look at the front end of our site, you'll see that we have 3 different menus. We have this top bar menu, we have our header menu, and if we scroll down, we have our footer menu. Now let's go back and make a few changes to our menu. Go back to your back end, and we're going to go back to Appearance Menus, and make sure that your main navigation menu is open. And let's say we wanted to rearrange the order that these menu items are showing up. We want our home page menu item to be at the top, so I'm going to click, hold, and drag all the way up here and release that. And let's say I want this to say home. I want the page, I know the page is called welcome, and it'll take on the page title by default as the menu title, but I want to change this to page. So I'm going to click that arrow there to drop down these options, and I'm going to type in home. And then I can just move that up. And then let's say I want my about to be after the home page menu, so I'm going to drag that up here. And now one thing I want to point out here, if you let it go like that to where it's pushed over a little bit, this about page will appear as a drop down menu when you hover over the home page menu item. And to make this its own menu item, we'll just move it over that way just a little bit. And we'll create a drop down here in just a moment, but I'm going to change my about title to just about. And I'm going to minimize that. And let's see here. I want to put my blog after my about page. I'm going to drag that up and then make sure that's scooted over where it needs to be. And then my contact page will be after my blog, just like that. And then for now, I'll leave those as they are. I'm going to click on Save Menu. And now I'm going to go to the front end of my site, and you'll see that these are rearranged, and it applied that to all 3 locations because the same menu is being applied to all 3 locations, and they're rearranged and they're renamed. Now if we go back, another quick way to access our menus is to hover over this, the title of your website button there, and then click on Menus. It's a shortcut. Let's say I wanted, like I said earlier, if I wanted the About page to be a drop-down menu of my home page, I could move it over that way underneath the home and then click Save and go back. And now the About's not appearing here, it's appearing when I hover over Home, so I could access the About page there. If I wanted a double drop-down menu, a drop-down within a drop-down, I could drag that over just like that. So now when we save that, go back and look at the front end, hover over Home, hover over About, and now I can access the blog, and I can access the About there, and I can access the home page there. But obviously that's not what we want to do. We're going to create a drop-down menu for our image gallery and our HTML table page, and this drop-down is not actually going to be a link to a page. It's just going to simply, the only purpose it will serve is to, when you hover over, it's going to show the HTML table and the image gallery pages. So let's scoot this over. This can be a little fickle, by the way, so you might have to, if you find out you're having a hard time getting one of these to move to its correct place, try moving it all the way to the left and then back over towards the right. That usually works. But I'm going to create a menu item, and I'm going to call it additional features. Now, since I don't have a page called additional features, what I'm going to do is create a link. Click on that arrow next to link, and on link text I'm going to call it additional features because that's what I want it to say. And then the URL, if I had a page or if I had somewhere on the internet, anywhere on the internet, that I wanted this menu item to link to, I could put that in there, the http://www. whatever it may be. But I'm just going to use the pound symbol since I don't want it to link anywhere. And that's just an HTML code. Use the pound symbol, and I'm going to click on Add to Menu. And it's going to put that at the bottom. I'm going to click, hold, and drag this above my HTML table page. And then I want to move it over so it's not a drop down underneath contact. And then my HTML table page is going to be, I want to move that over, and then I want to move my image gallery page over, just like that. And now when I save the menu and click to view the front end of our site, you'll see I have this additional features drop down, and I can access both of these pages here. And just to show you, if I click on the HTML table page, it takes me to that page there. If I click on the image gallery page, I get taken to the image gallery page. Now, of course, there's no content yet, and we will be adding that soon. But another thing I want to do, the last thing with menus, go back to your menus. I want to create a different menu for my top bar. I'm going to have my footer and my header menu be the same, this main navigation menu, but I'm going to create another menu. Just click on Create a New Menu, and I'm going to call this Top Bar Menu. Click on Create Menu, and let's say I want to link to external pages, pages that aren't on my website but are just on the web. The way I would do that is the same way we did our additional features menu item. Use a link, and let's say I wanted to link to google.com, for example, and I just want to call this Google. Well, I would just do, the URL would just be google.com, and just make sure you have that http:// in there. Click on Add to Menu, and let's say I wanted to do one for YouTube. Put the URL in, click on Add to Menu, and let's say I wanted to do one to the Hueman theme. We'll call it Hueman theme, that'll work. And then I'll go over here and I'll highlight this URL because this is the URL for the Hueman theme that we downloaded earlier. I'm going to go back and I'm going to select that because I don't want http: in there twice. I'm going to delete it and paste that in, and then click on Add to Menu. And of course I can rearrange these from here if I wanted to, but I'll just leave that the way it is. And then I need to assign it to a place. I'm going to assign it to my top bar because that's where I want it to be, and this is going to override the setting of the other menu to appear there since this is the latest change that we'll be making. So click on Save Menu, and now if we go back and look at the front end of our site, you'll see that we have this top bar menu here, and if we click on this Google menu, for example, we'll be taken to the Google page. Before we get our images and add content to our pages, we need to take care of a few things. So let's go back to the back end of our website. And the first thing we're going to take care of are some theme settings, some basic theme settings. Most WordPress themes will have a special place. Usually if you go to Appearance and you go to Theme Options, it'll say something like that. It might have the name of the theme there. But most WordPress themes have several different theme settings that you can choose from. Now, the first thing I want to do, we're going to get more into this a little bit later, but the first thing I want to do for now is let's go to Layout. And here, the global layout, this is the layout that affects your every page and blog post, everything on your site. And you can see here that it's set to the 3-column layout, which is a sidebar on the left, sidebar on the right, and then your content section in the middle. And of course, that's what we have, if you remember, looking at our front end. I like the look of a one sidebar layout personally. I think the 3 can be a little bit too cluttered at times, but it's totally up to you. But I'm going to use a right sidebar layout with just one sidebar. So I'm going to select that there and then click on Save Changes. And now if I go and look at my site, you'll see that that sidebar, that was on the left here, that was the primary sidebar, is now on the right. And if I go back to where I was, to the theme options, if I wanted the one column layout, for example, which wouldn't have any sidebars, I could do that option. And then if I looked at my site, you can see it's just a content section. So if we had content on our welcome page, our home page, that would take up the full width of the page. Now, most people wouldn't want to have that for their entire theme, so we're going to go back and we're just going to use the one sidebar layout there. Click on Save Changes, and we're going to get into all the options that you'll have. You have unlimited options. You can have different layouts on different pages even that we're going to get into. But let's just make these basic changes for now. We are going to go back to styling, and right here, since we're using one sidebar, you can read this. It says use two sidebars. Your container should be at least 1200 pixels wide. Well, we're only using one sidebar, so for one sidebar it says 1120 pixels for one sidebar right there. So we're going to make this, we're going to click here and drag that over to 1120. That'll be close enough, 1121. And then click Save. But here I want to point out, you have to check this box to enable all these options below on this page. To enable them, you have to check that box. You'll drive yourself crazy trying to figure out why your changes aren't updating if you don't check that box. So be sure and check that box, and then click on Save Changes. Now the next thing we're going to do is, you can see here at the top here, this theme recommends the following plugins: the contact form plugin, regenerate thumbnails plugin, the responsive light box, and this other one here. We're going to use 3 of the 4, and we're going to start out with the regenerate thumbnails plugin. And the reason why I want to introduce this plugin to you is, in the event that you have had your WordPress website for a while, or if you've used your site at all with any other themes besides the one you're currently using, which in our case is the Hueman theme, it's a good idea to use this regenerate thumbnails plugin before you switch over to the new theme, or before you start working with images again, because the old theme that you had generated the thumbnails based on the old theme settings, and you need to regenerate those thumbnails based on the new theme settings. So I don't actually have to use this plugin because I haven't used any images with any additional themes other than the Hueman theme, and actually I haven't added any images at all, so it's not a problem for me. But if you do need to use it, all you need to do is click there and install now. And then you need to activate the plugin. And another way to do that is you could install it from the WordPress directory by going to plugins and then clicking on add new. And then you could search for regenerate thumbnails right here and then click on search plugins and install it that way. And that would definitely be what you want to do if you're using a different theme that doesn't have the option up there for you to do that. But once you've installed and activated the theme, go to Tools and click on Regenerate Thumbnails, and then you're just going to click on Regenerate All Thumbnails right there, and it's going to go through your images one by one and regenerate the thumbnail for each one of those images so that all the new thumbnails will fit your current theme, and in our case the Hueman theme. Alright, so the general rule of thumb is if you switch themes, then use the Regenerate Thumbnails plugin, and it'll regenerate all your thumbnails so that the current theme is using the correct thumbnails. Alright, now let's talk about getting free high quality stock photos. For that I like to use a website called pixabay.com, so I'm going to open a new tab and go to pixabay.com. And this is a really awesome resource because all the images are super high quality. They're free to use for personal and commercial projects, and you don't even have to leave an attribution or credit the author of the photo. So another resource, by the way, that you might be interested in is very similar. It is called Stock Exchange, and it's sxc.hu. And it's a pretty similar platform, and the images are also pretty good quality. But we'll use Pixabay for this website. I'm just going to search for Venice, since that's one of the cities that I'm going to get a picture of. And this image here is a really cool image. You can just see there how high quality these images are. Now, to download an image from Pixabay, you can get an account, and it's free to get an account, and it makes it a little bit easier to download these. But if you don't have an account, just click on the image that you want to use, that you want to download, and then you have the different size options. Now, I always recommend downloading the 1280 pixel wide image, and this is because it's a pretty large image, so you usually won't run into a situation where you need a larger one. If you did, you do have that option, but you can always scale images down without losing quality. And I'm going to show you a tool on how we can resize these images if we need to make them smaller, and as long as we start pretty big, we can always work our way and get smaller. So we're going to download all 1280 pixel wide images. Just click on download, and then if you don't register, if you don't have an account with Pixlr, you do have to put in the CAPTCHA. So just type in the code there, and then click on download. And then you just need to save this somewhere on your hard drive. Now, I have already saved all the images that I'm going to use from Pixabay, so I'm just going to say cancel, and just to show you what I've got here, I've got two folders. I've got the images that I'm going to use for my gallery, and these 6 images here are all 1280 pixels wide, and then I've got a few more just for other parts of the website that I'm going to use to demonstrate, and they're also 1280 pixels wide. And now that we've got our images, let's go ahead and create or add content to our pages. And we'll start with the About page. So I'm going to go back to the back end of my website, and I'm going to go to Pages, All Pages. Click on that. And then you're going to click on About Places to Visit. That's the About page that I've created. Alright, now this area right here, this is called the Visual Editor. And it functions much like a word processor would. If you click this icon right here, this is called the kitchen sink. If you click that, it reveals these other formatting options, and you can type in text, and you can select it, and you can use the center icon there. You can change the color of the text, you can underline it, you can make it bold, italic, and you can use these heading tags to make the text bolder and bigger, different things like that. And this is the visual editor, and it's also known as a what you see is what you get editor. And then over here, if you click this tab, this is called the text editor, and this is what we'll use for HTML code. So like when we create our HTML table, we will put in HTML code in the text editor, and what the visual editor does is it actually writes out the HTML code for you. So it's really handy feature of WordPress. Now the first thing I'm going to do to my About page is add an image, and I want this image to be on the left, and I want text to wrap around the image on the right. So what I would do is go to Add Media, and then I would upload the image to my WordPress site and put it on this page. But before we do that, I need to resize that image, because right now it's 1280 pixels wide. It's an image that I got from Pixlr. As a general rule of thumb, when I'm putting an image directly onto a page using the visual editor, I like to get it a lot smaller than 1280 pixels. I like to get it actually to the size that I want it to appear as on my website. If I put a 1280 pixel wide image and didn't resize it, it would show up it would take up the full width of the page, which I do not want to do. So for resizing images, I am going to open up in a new tab a tool called Pixlr.com, and that's Pixlr.com. And this is a wonderful free photo editing application that's online. You don't have to actually even download any software. It works just on the internet. Click on Pixlr Editor, and then what you're going to do, I'm going to open an image from computer. Click on that, and then you find the image that you want to resize. And I'm going to use this Venice image. Open it up there. Alright, and this is the image. Now, the first thing I want you to notice is that this 57 right here, this is saying that we are looking at this image zoomed out, and we're only seeing it at 57% of its actual size. If we change this to 100%, this is the actual size of the image, and obviously with my monitor, the image is too large for me to see with all this other stuff on my screen. So by zooming out and viewing it a little bit smaller, and I'm actually going to change that to 50 just so we can have a little bit more to work with, you can see just it's only showing half of its original size. that doesn't mean it's actually been resized. To actually resize the image, we go to Image, Image Size, and I find that 300 pixels wide is a good width for images when you want to have text next to it. So I'm going to change that to 300, and as long as this constrained proportions box is checked, it will automatically fill in the height so that the ratio remains the same, so you won't get any distortion whatsoever with the image. And click on OK. And now notice we're still viewing it at 50% of its actual size, and if we change that to 100%, that is the actual size of the image. So when we put it on our website, it's going to be exactly that size. So what I'm going to do is go to File, Save, and I'm going to call this Venice About Page. And JPEG is good for photos, and 80% quality is good for the internet. And we're just going to say OK. And then I'm going to save this on my computer to a place where I know where I can find it, and click on Save. And that's as simple as that. So now we're going to go back and upload this image to our About page. Go back to the page editor for our About page, and we're going to click on Add Media, and then we're going to select Files, and we're going to find this image that we just resized. Click on Open. Alright, and before we actually insert this into our page, I just want to point out here that a couple of things you should be thinking about with your images. The file name of the image is one thing to be concerned with. You might want to change those if they're just numbers and things like that, because Google can't look at your image and know what it's about. It has to rely on text. So the actual file name of the image is one thing that I would think about. The title of the image is one thing I would think about, and the alt text is something I would think about. Now the caption is something that will actually show on the page beneath the image if you choose to use it. And by the way, I'm not going to worry about the title and the alt text just for the sake of time here, but if we wanted to use a caption, we could do that. Like that. And then if I scroll down, I have more options here. The alignment, since I want it to appear to the left and I want my text to wrap around to the right, I'm going to align it to the left. And then link, if I left that on media file, what would happen is people could click on the image and it would just open up the image on its own page, which I don't want. I could choose to link that image to another URL, another web page on my site, or a custom URL even, another URL anywhere on the internet, but I'm just going to set that to none. And then I do want the full size image, and you can see here it's now 300 pixels wide. And I'm going to click on Insert into Page, just like that, and you can see that we have a caption here. Now to add the text to the right of this image, I'm just going to click out here, and actually this can be a little fickle sometimes. You want to click right here, but it's only letting me click there. So what I'm going to do is just try to copy my text that I want to wrap around that image, and I'm going to paste it in. Right there and see what it does. It's not doing what I want, so I'm going to grab this image, drag it up, and put it right there. There we go. Sometimes the visual editor can definitely be a little fickle. You just have to mess with it, and there are some other things I'm going to point out here. But let's go ahead and update that. And then now if we view this page, click on View Page, you'll see that our text is wrapping around to the right of the image and then underneath it here. And this is what a caption looks like. If you didn't have a caption, then this little section with the gray background and the gray border on the image, I don't know if you can see that with the recording, but there's a really subtle gray border, that wouldn't actually appear. But if you do have a caption, that's where it would go. Alright, let's go back and click on, actually let's just click on Edit Page, this little button. That's a quick way to get back to the page editor for the About page. And then let's say we wanted to add 2 columns of text beneath the image and beneath the paragraph that we already have. What you would do is click at the very end of your paragraph and then click Enter. And then what we're going to do is grab what we want for our first column, and we're going to paste that in there, and then I'm going to click enter again and go back and grab what we want for our second column and paste that in there. Now, what we're going to do to get these to appear as two different columns instead of just going all the way across the page like it normally would do is use what's called a shortcode. And a shortcode is a great feature of WordPress. Many different plugins and many different themes will have certain shortcodes that you can use. And to see a list of all the column shortcodes that we can use for the Hueman theme, we're going to go to the Hueman themes website, and we're going to scroll down, and the same page where we downloaded it, except this time we're going to look at the live demo. Click on that, and then if we go to more and then click on columns, you can see all these different column options that we have here. We could do 2 1/2 columns, we could do 3 1/3 columns, and we could even mix it up like that. But we're just going to do the 2 1/2 columns. So scroll down to the bottom here, and you'll see a list of all the shortcodes available for each one of those examples. And since we're going to do 2 1/2 columns, these are the shortcodes that we would use. So for our first paragraph that we want to be a column, we're going to select the first part of the code, and that's just the bracket and everything in between the brackets. Copy that and go back to your page editor, and we're going to paste that in front just like that. And then at the end of this, we're going to click there. We're going to go back and grab the ending shortcode. Just copy that, go back to our page editor and paste that in. And then we're going to do the same thing for the second column, except we're going to grab this one, copy that, paste it in there, scroll down, click there, and grab the ending shortcode, copy that, and paste that in. And then now I'm going to update the page, and if I view the page now, if everything's correct, we should have 2 columns down there. Perfect, just like that. Good deal. Now let's go back and go back to the page editor, and we're going to add a paragraph beneath these 2 columns. And I want to point something out here. You would think that if you just did that and put your paragraph here, it would show up with just 1 space. But this is again an example of what I was talking about with the visual editor. It can be a little tricky sometimes. If we update that and then view our page, you'll see that it's actually, there's no space in between. And I'm going to show you a little trick that you can use if you're having trouble with a visual editor. This will work for a lot of different scenarios. You can actually switch to the text editor and add just a little bit of HTML code in the right place, and it'll kind of break that up so that you can switch back to the visual editor and it'll work. What we're going to do, this is where we want it, we want a space there. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to switch to the text editor. By the way, this is HTML code. This is a good example of how the visual editor writes the HTML code for you. That's for our image. Scroll down, and this is where I want a space right here. So I'm going to use a code. I'm going to click right after that shortcode, that final ending shortcode, and I'm going to type in the and symbol, which is shift and the 7 key, and then I'm going to type NBSP semicolon. Alright, and now let's go back and let's bump that up a little bit. Let's see what that does. If we update that, and now if we view the page, perfect, just like that. So that's a good trick you can use if for some reason you're working in the visual editor and you can't click somewhere that you'd like to. If we switch back to the visual editor, if you can't click up here, for example, and you needed to put something up here, you could switch to the text editor, and at the very top you could add that same HTML code, that and symbol NBSP semicolon, and then if you flip back, you should be able to access that. Now, the last thing I want to do, actually, the second to last thing I want to do is show you how to make any text a link to another page. Is just highlight the text that you want to use. I'm going to highlight home page here, and then come up and click on this link icon, and then you could put in a URL if you wanted to, or you can link to existing content if you're linking to a page that you have on your site. That's a little shortcut. We're just going to do that, and we're going to link to our welcome page because that's our home page, and then click on add link. And you can always select that again, and then just like that, and then hit this unlink. Whoops, I must have opened that in a different tab. You could always select that and then hit this unlink icon to remove that, or you could hit this link icon to edit those settings there. And then the final thing is we're going to make a bullet list. So I'm just going to copy this, paste that in there, and then my bullet list I'm going to have to copy one at a time. Paste that in. Paste that in. And copy that. Paste that in. Copy and paste that final part of my list, and I'm going to add another space there. And then I'm going to select all the different list items, what I want to become a list, and then all I have to do is click either here, and that's going to make a bullet list, an unordered bullet list, or if I want them numbered, I can click there. I'm just going to make an unordered list just like that. And if I update the page and then view the page, scroll down, you'll see everything is falling into place very nicely. I can click right here on this link that we created and get taken to the home page just like that, and then we have all of our list items. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is add content to our home page, our welcome page. So we're going to go back to the back end of our site, and then we're going to go to Pages, All Pages, and just click on our welcome page to open up the page editor for that page. And first thing we're going to add to this page is our YouTube video. We're just going to open a new tab, and I'll just use this Pixlr tab. Go to youtube.com, and the video that I'm going to look for is, let's do New York City vacations. Alright, and this first one here is the video that we're going to do. So open the video up, and I'm going to click to pause that. And what you do here to embed a video, and this is kind of the traditional way to add a YouTube video to a website, you would open the video page up, click on Share, and then you would click on Embed, and then you can choose the size that you want the video to be on your website, and you would select your size. You would copy this code that it gave you, that's HTML code. You would go back in, whoops, go back into your page editor, switch to the text editor, and you would paste that in. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to update it, and I'm going to show you what happens. Click on View Page. Alright, now we've got that YouTube video embedded, but here's the thing. If you don't get the size just right, it's not going to fit on your page. So in our case, we chose too big of a size, too large of a size, so it's not showing the full player. Another thing I want you to notice is if we look at what this would look like on a smartphone, for example, it's just going to keep cutting that video off. So if you looked at this on an iPhone, it's going to look like that. It's going to show maybe half the player, maybe less, maybe a third of the player. But what we can do with the Hueman theme, and this is just one of the many things that makes it wonderful, is the responsive nature of this theme is incredible. All we have to do is copy and paste the URL back. Let's go back to our page editor for the home page. We're going to remove this and we're going to switch back over to the visual editor, and all we have to do is copy and paste that URL from YouTube that matches the video we want. Click on update, and now if we view this page, you'll see that it's automatically knows to make it as large as it can. And when we resize this as if we were using a smartphone, you can see right there, that's the width that it would appear on a smartphone, just like that. So it would look very nice. Alright, now the next thing we're going to do, go back to the page editor, and we are going to add a shortcode that's going to put in a divider between our video and our next paragraph. So for that, we're going to go back to the Hueman demo website, scroll up to the top here, and I'm going to click on shortcodes. Let's see here, typography is actually what I want to click on, and then scroll down, and we are going to use the divider code, which is just simply HR within brackets. And those brackets, by the way, are the keys next to the letter P on your keyboard. Go back to the page editor, and we're just going to paste that in there. And then now we're going to add a paragraph underneath that divider. Just wanted to see if I could bump that divider up, but it looks like that's where it wants to be. So we're going to copy and paste in this paragraph that I've already written, and paste that in there, and then update the page. And then click on View Page. And if we scroll down, you'll see that we've got our video, and then our divider beneath the video, and then our paragraph underneath the divider. Now let's add another paragraph, and we're going to use another shortcode to create a pretty cool, what's called a pull quote effect. And we'll go back to the page editor here and copy in our text first. Grab that. I'm just going to select this, and I'm going to make all of this another paragraph. So I'm going to click at the end of this one, and click enter, and then paste that in there. And right here at the beginning of this quote, this is where I want to add this pull quote effect. And to do that, I'm going to click right there at the beginning of it. I'm going to go back to the typography page on the Hueman demo theme, and I'm going to scroll up here. And right here, this is an example of a pull quote. That's a pull quote right, and this is a pull quote left. So if we scroll down, this is the shortcodes for it. You have this beginning shortcode. So I'm going to copy that and paste that in there. And then at the end of this pull quote, after that, I'm going to copy and paste the ending pull quote left shortcode. Just like that. And then I'm going to go and I want to make this W here, the very first letter of this page, I want to make it a drop cap. So if I scroll up here, you'll see that is this shortcode right here. All we have to do is add this beginning and ending drop cap shortcode in front of and behind where we want it, in this case the W. And then we'll copy that and paste that in there. And now if we update the page and go back and view the page, we've got our nice drop cap W here, and then we've got our nice pull quote, just like that. And that's a couple of other examples of how to use shortcodes. Alright, now let's add the contact form to our contact page, and do that, go back to the back end. And we are actually going to use the same contact form plugin that this the Hueman theme recommends, which is the Contact Form 7 plugin. And plugins are just a wonderful way to enhance the function or the functionality of your website, and WordPress has so many different options for that, and this is just one example of it. let's go, instead of clicking on that, I'm going to show you the traditional way to install a plugin. Go to Plugins, click on Add New, and we're just going to search for Contact Form 7, and then click on Search Plugins. And this first one here is the one we want. You can see that it's gotten really good ratings. Go ahead and click on Install Now, and click on OK. And then we need to activate the plugin, so click on Activate Plugin. Alright, and now we have this new Contact tab appearing here. If we click on that, it's going to take us to this page, and by default you already have the contact form created. Just click on that, and you'll see that there's going to be a place for people to input their name, their email address, which both of those will be required fields. There's a subject and there's a message, and then there's the send button. And if you scroll down here, you want to make sure that you've got the correct email address there, and that should be the same email address that you used when you installed WordPress. And you could change that either here on the actual form, or if you change your admin email under users and changed your settings, the same place where you changed your password, you could do that. Now, to add this form to our contact page, all we have to do is copy and paste this shortcode here, and go back and open our contact page up in the page editor. And all we have to do is paste that shortcode in just like that. Click on Update the Page. And now if we view the page, you'll see that we have a really nice contact form. And it's actually taken on the button, color of the button is taken on the same color of the theme color scheme. And when we change our color scheme, this button will also change. So that's a really cool feature of this theme and plugin working together. Alright, now let's add our image gallery, and to do that we'll go back to the back end, and you can see at the top here that the Hueman theme does recommend a responsive lightbox plugin, and it's actually called responsive lightbox, and that's going to turn your image galleries into a responsive lightbox. And to install that, you can go to Appearance, Install Plugins, and this is if you're using the Hueman theme, and then you can hover over Responsive Lightbox and click on Install. If you're using a different theme or want to do it the traditional way, which we will do, you're just going to go to Plugins, Add New, and search for Responsive Lightbox. Click on Search Plugins, and it should be the first one that pops up. Click on Install Now. Click on OK. And then after the plugin installs, click on Activate Plugin. So now anytime we create an image gallery, it's going to automatically turn it into this responsive plugin, or responsive feature. Alright, so let's go to Pages, All Pages. And we're going to be working with our image gallery page, because of course that's where we're going to put our image gallery. And the way we would add a gallery is click on this Add Media, and we would click on Create Gallery there, and then we would upload the files. We wouldn't have to resize them, because with a gallery, WordPress will automatically create your thumbnails, and that way you'll have a thumbnail, and when you click on the thumbnail, it'll open up a larger image, and you definitely want that larger image so that when you look at it in the lightbox, it shows up larger. To make this happen effectively, and to make our thumbnails look good, we need to go to Settings, and then we need to go to Media, and we need to adjust the size of our thumbnails because currently they're too small. Right now it's at 150 by 150. I like to make these thumbnails 300 by 300 pixels. That way the thumbnails of our gallery won't look blurry. And click on Save Changes, and I'll point out where this would look blurry if you don't make this change. So let's go back to Pages, All Pages, and click on the image gallery page again. And to create our gallery, like I said, we're going to click there to get the cursor going, and then click on Add Media. And we're going to click on Create Gallery, and then we're going to upload files. and click on Select Files, and find the images on your hard drive that you want to use for your image gallery. I've got all mine in one folder, so I'm going to select all of these, and these are all 1280 pixels wide. Click on Open, and it's going to upload these to our media library and create our gallery one image at a time. Alright, and then if we scroll down here, we can see all the different settings again with SEO, search engine optimization. It'd be wise to make sure your title is accurately representing the image, and as well as the alt text. You definitely want that. And there's another place where we can add a caption that I'll show you, but let's go ahead and click on Create Gallery, and then we have all kinds of different options. We can rearrange the images in our gallery by click holding and dragging and then releasing. We can do that. I'm just going to leave that the way it is. And then we can add captions to our images. And I'll show you what this does. If I copy and paste that there, and I'll do that to this middle one too. Alright, I'll show you what the captions do. That's a pretty cool effect. And then right here we need to link to the media file. For this Lightbox plugin to work, you have to change the link to media file. And then I like the look of 4 columns. So we'll have 4 thumbnails and then 2 on the bottom. You can do 3 by 3 if you want to. Then click on Insert Gallery. And if you wanted to edit this gallery, all you have to do, again, this is a visual editor, just click here, and then you would click this little icon that says Edit Gallery when you hover over it, and you could change the order, you could change these settings, but we're just going to leave it the way it is. Now click on Update. Alright, and click on View Page. Alright, and now we have a really nice gallery here, and we can click on these, and you can see it opens up in this really nice light box, and we can scroll through and look at each image full sized or full screen. And to exit out, you can click the X, or you can hit Escape on the keyboard, just like that. Now, what I wanted to point out about, if we wouldn't have adjusted that settings under media settings and changed the size of our thumbnails from 150 to 300 pixels, these images would be blurry, and that's because these images are larger than 150 by 150 pixels, and it would have taken that thumbnail that was that size and it would have made it the size that you're looking at. And anytime you make an image larger from a smaller image, which the thumbnail would have been 150 by 150, you're going to lose quality. So that's why you would do that. And if for some reason you find that your images are blurry, what you need to do is go adjust your settings in the media settings where we were, and then delete the images that you had in your gallery and then upload them again. And that should solve that. Alright, I just realized something interesting here that I want to point out to you so that you don't make the same mistake. If, like I said, there were 2 ways to install the gallery. We could either install it the traditional way, which is what we did, by searching for it in the WordPress directory and installing it from there, or we could have installed it by following the directions of the theme. Well, it turns out there are 2 different plugins. I'm going to click here so that you see what this lightbox looks like. This is what the plugin does that we downloaded from the WordPress directory called Responsive Lightbox. But if we go back to our back end and we go to Plugins, Installed Plugins, if we deactivate this plugin that we downloaded from the WordPress directory by clicking Deactivate, and then we go and follow the themes instructions to install this Responsive Lightbox plugin by going to Appearance, Install Plugins, and then hovering over Responsive Lightbox, click on Install, and then click on Return to Required Plugins Installer, and then we need to click on Activate. Now, if we go back to our front end of our WordPress website, and go to our image gallery page, and we click on one of our thumbnails, we get this type of lightbox. So depending on which one you want to use, now you have two different options there. And this one you can scroll through, and you can either there's an X up here that if your admin bar is not showing up, if you're not logged into the back end, you can click on this X like that, or use the escape key. And also, just if we go back to edit the page, to get to the page editor, just make sure if you're having trouble with your gallery not showing the lightbox, make sure that you've got it linking to the media file. It's got to be linked to the media file for that particular plugin to work. Alright, now we're going to touch on HTML tables just real briefly here, and you certainly won't be a pro with HTML by watching a few minutes of this video on creating HTML tables, but at least it will get you pointed in the right direction if you aren't familiar with HTML at all. Basically, what an HTML table looks like, if we go to the Hueman demo theme and click on More and then click on Tables, this is a table right here. It's just a series of columns, rows and columns with different data in each one. And right here is HTML code for a table. I'm just going to copy and paste all this in. And I'm going to go back to the back end of my site. I'm going to open up all pages and open up my HTML table page. And you definitely have to be in the text editor when working with HTML. Just paste that in. Alright, now the first thing that I have to point out is that this will not work as it is because this is not correct HTML code. For whatever reason, each one of these has a space on the side of the opening tag and on the side of the closing tag. So we have to take those out. So I'm going to take those out real quick and I'll be right back. Alright, now one of the most fundamental principles when dealing with HTML code is symmetry. You have to think symmetrically. Wherever there's an opening tag, there is almost always a closing tag. So in this case, we have our table opening tag here, and if you scroll down, we have our closing table tag. If we go back up, we have our opening table head tag, and then right here we have our closing table head tag. And then here we have our opening table row tag and our closing table row tag, our opening table header tag, and our closing table header tag. Everything has to be symmetrical. And to give you a resource that you can study and that will hopefully help you get familiar with what these different HTML tags mean, I'm going to open a new tab and just go to w3schools.com. This is the leading authority on HTML and CSS and other coding languages as well. Let's click on Learn HTML, and then you want to go to HTML tables. And we're not really going to go over this too much here, but I just wanted to point out that you can read all about tables and the HTML tags that constitute tables on this page. Alright, and if we go back, now let's look at this, our table on the front end of our website. I'm going to open this in a new tab by right-clicking on this view page, open link in a new tab. Okay, now you can see here that we have 4 different columns and 3 different rows. If we go back and look at the HTML code for our table, I want you to notice that the 3 rows are right here. This is our first row. We have our opening and closing table row tag, that's 1. And then we have our opening here and then closing table row tag, that's 2 rows. And then we have our third row right here, opening and closing. Okay, so that makes sense because we have 3 rows on the front end of our site, 1, 2, and 3. Now the columns are made up by either the table header opening and closing tags, which we have 4 table header opening and closing tags there, and then we have 4 table data opening and closing tags here in this row, and then in our third row we also have 4 table data opening and closing tags. Everything has to be symmetrical, so you have to have the same number of table data tags and table header tags in every row, otherwise the table won't work. Okay, and everything in between the table data opening and closing tags or the table header in this case, the table header opening and closing tags, is completely up to you. It's the data that you choose to put in the table. So we're going to actually adjust this. If you wanted to remove a column, for example, and we're actually going to add a column, but if you wanted to remove a column, remember that each table header or table data section represents one column. So if you wanted to remove one column, you would have to remove one table header or table data section from every row. So you would have to remove, let's say you wanted to remove the fourth column. You would have to remove the fourth column here. You would have to remove the fourth column here. And you would have to remove the fourth column here. Now in our case, let's say we want to add a column, and we're going to do that. What you would do is start at the top, start on your first row, which is our table header, and we're going to go down by pushing enter there and just spacing over. It's a good idea and good practice to get your code organized just like they have it organized. So we're going to add a table header by doing that, and these are less than and greater than symbols, and that's the table header opening tag, and we're just going to call this quantity. And then we're going to have our closing table header tag, and that's just a less than /th and then the greater than symbol. Alright, and now we need to scroll down and we need to add an additional table data tag to our second row. So I'm going to push enter there and then space over here, and we're just going to add a table data opening tag, and for this one, let's say we have our quantity is going to be 100. Okay, notice that this table data is matching up with this quantity table header section. So our quantity is going to be 100 for this item 1. And you'll see this all laid out on the table when we update the page. And then our closing table data tag needs to go there. Alright, and then scroll down, and we need to add another table data section to this row. Space over there, line that up in our opening table data, and we're going to give this a quantity of 300, and then closing table data, just like that. Alright, now when we update the page, and then go and refresh our page, we're going to have an additional column. Just like that. Now we still have 3 rows because we didn't add any additional rows, but we did add another column, and each row had to have its own table header or table data section, just like that. Now let's go back and let's add an additional row. So we're going to go back to the page editor, and now we have to have an opening and closing table row tag with now 5 table data or table header tags, since we just added an additional table column. So let's scroll down here, and because we have our first row, we have our second row, and now we have our third row. So before this closing table body tag, we're going to add another row. So click there at the end of this table row closing tag, click enter and space over. And actually we're going to space down one more to keep those separated. Alright, and then we're going to have an opening table row tag. Hit enter and then space over. And then we're going to have our table data tag opening. And we're going to name this one item 3. Hopefully you're seeing the symmetry here. Closing table data tag. Enter, space over. And we're going to call this one details because that's what the others are calling theirs. Closing table data tag, excuse me. Then space over here again. This one we'll just use as what they've been using for the third column, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Closing table data. And then we need our price table data section, and we're going to give this one, we're going to say $12. closing table data tag. And then we need our quantity because we added our quantity column. So we're going to give this an opening table data tag, and the quantity on this one is going to be 400. And we'll close the table data tag. And then we have to hit enter again, and we're going to space over, and we have to have a closing table row tag since we had an opening table row tag there. Now when we update the page, as long as everything was typed in correctly, if we go back to the front end and refresh, you'll see that we have our third row, just like that. So hopefully, I know that's confusing and that's a lot of information just all of a sudden like that, but hopefully if you watch a couple of times and you put this into practice and you look at this W3 Schools resource, hopefully you'll be able to familiarize yourself enough with basic HTML table tags so that you will be able to use these on your own site. Alright, now we're going to get into what I would consider more of the fun stuff where you get to be a little bit creative and artistic with things, and we're going to choose our color scheme. So I'm going to show you the process I use to do that. Let's go ahead and go back to our back end, and I'll show you where we're going to make these changes. If you go to Appearance Theme Options, we're going to go back to Styling, click on Styling, and this is where we were when we adjusted the width of our site. Again, you want to make sure this is checked so that these options will take effect, and then scroll down. And right here, we can choose all these different colors. We have a primary color, which they have by default. The Hueman theme is this blue. The secondary color is this green, and that's going to show up on your secondary sidebar if you choose to use a two sidebar layout. And it'll also show up a little bit more, especially with some blogging features we'll look at later. Your top bar background right here, I'm going to open our site up in a new tab. This is going to be our top bar background, and then this is going to be our header. So if you look here, we've got our top bar color, we've got our header color is more of a gray, and then we've got our background color here is this really light gray. And if you look here, you'll see we've got that light gray there, and then of course our footer is also the gray, the same gray as our header. So you can see there the footer and the header are the same color. Now we're going to change these up, and I'm going to show you a fantastic resource for coming up with color schemes. I'm going to open a new tab, and I'm going to go to colorlovers.com, and that's C-O-L-O-U-R, lovers.com. And this is a great resource because all kinds of different graphic designers post their different color scheme ideas to this site, and you can look at all kinds of different trends, different branding trends, different web trends, different interior design trends, all kinds of things. And I'm just going to show you real quick where I found the color scheme I want to use for this demonstration. Click on Trends, and then you're going to scroll down, and I'm going to go to page 3, I believe. Scroll down, and this right here, I found this. Now, it's important to note you don't have to use all the colors that are part of the color scheme, but if you scroll down a little bit more, I'll show you. These are all the different colors used in this color palette. I really like this darker, it's almost a black, but not quite. I like that color a lot. I really like this darker orange, and I like this lighter orange, and I really like this it's kind of a light, really light tan shade that I want to use for my background. So what you do is you grab what's called the hex code, and you'll see it's labeled the hex code. It's the 6-digit series of letters and numbers, and that will match up to that shade exactly. So what we're going to do for each of our different places on our website, we're going to use these different hex codes. So if we go back to theme options, scroll down, for my primary color, you can see that the hex code that is in by default matches up with this blue. I'm going to replace that, and I'm going to replace that with this dark orange here, the hex code. So I'm going to copy, make sure and get every digit or letter, copy that, and go back and paste that in there, and it should put that pound symbol in by default. Alright, and just click here to get out of that, and this will update once we update or save the page. Now for my secondary color, I'm going to use this lighter orange here. Copy that hex code, paste that in there, and click out here to get out of that. For my top bar, I'm going to use this darker, almost this black. Paste that in there. And for my header, I'm actually going to leave it to this gray. Usually when you have a black, you can get away with using a gray shade. And also one thing I do want to point out, with your top bar and your header menu, the text of the menu is actually kind of a white or a gray. So you want to be a little bit on the darker side with your colors, otherwise you might have trouble seeing your menu here. Just something to make note of. Alright, and for my footer background, I want it to be that same gray as the header. And then for my body background, I want that to be this tan color here. So I'm going to copy and paste that hex code. Right there. Alright, and now if I save the changes, as long as you've got that box checked, when we refresh the site, it should look completely different. There we go, just like that. Alright, looking pretty good now. Alright, and one thing I do want to show you, I chose to use a solid color for my background, but there's a really cool resource if you wanted to use a pattern, or a textured pattern, or all kinds of different options you have. You can upload your own image here, and the resource that I would recommend is a website called siteorigin.com. And scroll down to the bottom here, and under useful tools, click on background image generator. And I'm going to paste in this same code for the background color that I selected, because you can actually create a background color, or a background with whatever color you want to with this tool. So I'm going to use that color, and it's going to load that. That's a real subtle diagonal textured background. I'm not sure if you can see that with the video, but let me change that to something a little more noticeable. You have all kinds of different things you can play with. Let's go with merely cubed. There you go. And then I can turn up the intensity so that you can see that a little bit better, just like that. Just as an example, there are so many neat things you could do with this, and I find the more subtle you are, the better. But get that the way you want it if you choose to use one of these backgrounds. And then all you have to do is download the background and save that to somewhere on your computer where you can find it. And then all you would do is go back to your theme options, and right here you would upload that image. Non-select files. I'm just going to search for it. Right there. And then you would click on send to option tree, and then you would choose to repeat this. For example, you definitely, if it's a repeatable pattern, it's actually a really small image. If we go back here, I'm going to view this background image. This is the whole image, and it just repeats horizontally and vertically seamlessly. That's how they're designed. It's really cool. So that's all you're looking at, and to make it repeat on your website, you would change this background repeat to repeat all, and then you can choose whatever attachment you like. You can experiment with those. And then the background position, I would do left top, and then click on Save Changes. And if we look at our site now, you can see that we've got this texture background back here. But I like the look of the plane, and by no means is that something I put much thought into, by the way. I just wanted to demonstrate what you can do with that tool. I'm going to switch this back by removing this image here by clicking that red button there. Click OK. I'm going to save that. Alright. Alright, now let's create our logo and add it to the header of our website. And to do that, let's first click on header here in theme options. And when we create the logo, we're going to add it right here under custom logo. And then a couple of things I want to point out here. The site description, if we go back to the front end of our website, this is the site description right here. And it's the same thing that we set up that is appearing in the header of our browser right there when we set it up in general settings, under settings general in the back end here, right there. And also note that right here next to logo, it says upload your custom logo, set the max height in styling options. If we click on styling, then you'll see, and scroll down a little bit, right here, header logo image max height is set, the default is 60, so that's 60 pixels. And it says here that the logo image should have double the height to have this in high resolution. So we're going to make our logo 120 pixels tall. Alright, so let's go back to our header. And of course we could disable that site description by clicking that box, but we'll leave it the way it is. Now to create our logo, we're going to use a really good free resource called iPiccy.com. So I'm going to open a new tab and go to iPiccy.com. And then I'm going to click on Start Editing. And then I'm going to create a new blend by clicking on this icon. And I'm going to change my height to 120 since that's what we decided we wanted it to be. And the width, I'm just going to leave it at that. We're actually going to crop it. I just need to set my height, so I'm not worried about the width as long as it's wide enough, which that's going to be plenty wide. And click on Create. Alright, and then we're going to click on this text icon here to create a text layer. And I'm going to call this Places to Visit, exclamation mark. And then I'm going to come down here and select a font. I'm going to use this lobster font. Alright, and then I'm going to click, hold, and drag my text to this corner, the top corner here of our canvas, and let go of that. And then I'm going to come to size and just adjust the size until it is taking up that full height of 120 pixels. It doesn't need to be exact. We actually do want a little bit of room because we're going to add a drop shadow to this text. It's going to be very subtle, so it's not going to take up much space on the text, but we do want to leave it a little bit of room. There we go. That should be good right there. And then I'm going to change this text to white, and you're not going to be able to see it because the canvas by default is white, but we're actually going to turn that layer off because we want this to be a transparent image file so that it will take on whatever background we put it on. So in our case, we're going to put it in our header here, and it's going to replace this text right here, and that means we want it to take on this gray background or whatever color you have your header set to. So we're going to make it a transparent file. So let's go back here. And to get out, well, first let's change the text to white, of course, by clicking on color. And then drag this all the way over, and of course that brings out all the other color options. You could just click here and change that to whatever you want, but we're going to drag it all the way up here to the top to white. And then I'm going to click here in this blank area to get out of that. And then I'm going to turn this background off by clicking on this eye icon next to background. Okay, it's real subtle, but you can probably see that on the video. Then I'm going to add my drop shadow, and that's really going to bring out the logo. And to do that, I'm going to click on Done. Okay, and you can kind of see that if you tilt your head and look up at the screen, and at least in my case, but we're really going to be able to see that in a sec. I'm going to click on this icon here. When you hover over it, it says Frames, and then I'm going to scroll down and click on Drop Shadow. Now you can play with these settings, but I've got some settings in mind. I'm going to change this color to black, completely black. Click OK, and then the distance I want to set to 2. Then my size, I want that also on 2. My angle, I'm going to set that to 75. And then the fade, I'm going to set that to 100. And let's see here. Something didn't catch there. Fade needs to be set to 1. That was what it was. Then click on Apply. Alright, and then the next thing I need to do, and really the final thing, is crop this image. So I'm going to click on this camera icon here that says Basic Editor when you hover over it. And then click on Crop Picture. And that's going to bring up the crop tool. I like to just click, hold, and drag this over to the top of my image. And remember, we want this image to be 120 pixels wide, or high rather. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to click here, and if you look on the left where it says 84 right now and it's moving up to 90, that needs to be 120 or real close to it. Doesn't have to be exact. I like to get it exact if you can though. Let's bump that down just a little bit. There we go. And then I'm going to drag this over to make sure, when you do that you have to start over. There we go. I just clicked off the tool on accident. And I need to bump that up. There we go. Make sure I get it this time. Alright, that looks pretty good, and you can see that my height is 120. And when you get that the way you want it, click on Apply, and it's going to crop that image down. And now we're going to save the image by clicking on this disk icon and name this whatever you want to name it. And we're going to change this to a PNG so that way it will take on whatever background we put it on. It's got to be a PNG file. Click on Save to my computer, and I'm just going to save this to my desktop. Click on Save. Alright, now we have a logo. Now let's add it to our theme by going back to our theme options. Make sure you click on Header, and I'm going to add it by clicking on that icon. I'm going to upload the file, select File, and find it. I saved it to my desktop. Click on Open. Then you can add your caption and your alt text if you choose to do that, and click on Send to Option Tree. And that's going to put it right there. And then we need to click on Save Changes. Alright, now that we've done that, if we go back to our site, front end, and refresh, you'll now see our new logo appearing there. Alright, now let's talk about widgets and widget areas. Basically, what widgets do is they enable you to add additional features and additional functionality to different widget areas on your website. Now, a widget area is going to be different from theme to theme. Different themes will have different widget areas, but most themes will have at least a sidebar widget area, and in our case we have a sidebar widget area right here, and it is populated with 6 different widgets by default, and that comes with a standard WordPress installation. It's going to populate one of your widget areas with these widgets. We've got a search widget, a recent posts widget, comments, archives, categories, and meta. And of course we're going to remove all these and add the ones that we want. Now, to see your available widgets and available widget areas, you're going to go back to the back end of your site and go to Appearance and click on Widgets. And on the left here we have all the widgets that are available to us. If we scroll down, you can see all of those there. And different themes will come with different widgets sometimes. In our case, these 3 ALX widgets are specific to the Hueman theme. Also, different plugins that you add sometimes might include different widgets that you can use. Now, on the right here, we have the widget areas that are available to us. And if I minimize this by clicking this arrow, you'll see that we have a primary widget area, a secondary widget area, and these are the primary sidebar and the secondary sidebar, and then 4 footer widget areas. Now, just because we have 6 total widget areas available to us, that doesn't mean they're all going to be utilized. We have to activate the ones that we want to use. Now, to do that, we're going to go to Appearance, click on Theme Options, and then we're going to click on Footer. And just to show you what I mean, by default, none of the footer widgets are activated. And you can see that right here, but we have 4 different options. We can use 1 to 4 different footer widget areas. And if we look, it says the recommended number to use is 3, so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to click on this option right there and then click on Save Changes. And now that's going to activate footer widget areas 1 through 3. So the 4th one will not be utilized. So if we had something in the 4th widget area, it wouldn't show up on our site. Alright, now to decide which sidebar widget areas we want to activate, we would go under Theme Options, go to Layout, and right here, this is what we set up back towards the beginning of the video. The global layout we have set to one sidebar widget area, and that's on the right. So that one sidebar is going to be our primary widget area. Now if we set it to this one, then that just means our primary widget area would show up on the left of our website. If we select this option, then we would have a primary widget area and a secondary widget area. This option would also have a primary and secondary widget area, but they'd both be on the same side. And then this would be both of those areas on the opposite side. But I like the look of the one sidebar layout on the right, so I'm just going to leave that there. Now, one thing that's really great about this theme, they make it really easy for you to decide if you want different layouts on different types of pages on your site. So right now, this home option, this is a little confusing because this actually refers to the blog page of your site, and this is because WordPress, by default, the home page is set up to be the blog page. Now, we didn't do that. We set our home page up to be the welcome page, but this option here is going to control your blog page. So if you wanted your blog page, instead of showing your primary sidebar on the right, if you wanted it to show on the left for whatever reason, you could do that here. Okay? We're just going to leave it the way it is. Now, this single option is referring to single blog posts, and we're going to go over that more. You'll understand that when we discuss the difference between pages and posts here in a moment. And then you have all these different options that you can just experiment with. And then your pages, this is going to refer to our welcome page, for example, our contact page, our image gallery. Those are pages that we've already created. You have that option here. Okay? Alright, now I'm going to leave it the way it is, so I'm not going to have to save anything, but you would definitely want to click on Save if you made a change here. I'm going to go back to Appearance and click on Widgets. And I'm going to remove the widgets that WordPress put into my primary sidebar by default by clicking, holding, and dragging and releasing those over back in the Available Widgets area. Alrighty. And then I'm going to go down and find a Pages widget right here. And I'm going to click, hold, and drag. And I'm going to move this up here. And I'm just going to put it in my primary widget area and release that. Now, you have to drop it down by clicking these arrows in order to drag and release a widget into an area. But I'm just going to do that, and then you could give it a title, and you have some options there. We're just going to stick to the default settings, click on Save. And now if we go back and look at our site and refresh, you'll see that all of those widgets are gone, except for, since we added the Pages widget, we now have all of the pages that we've created available, and we could click on these and be taken to each page by doing that. One thing I want to point out here is that since we set the global layout up to have one sidebar on the right, and we didn't make any other changes to the different types of pages that we went over, then all of the pages and posts on our website are going to show up that same way, with the sidebar on the right and the widget areas that are in that primary widget, or the widgets that are in that primary widget area. Alright, now let's go back and add some more widgets by going back to the back end. Now I want to add text and an image to my sidebar, and to do that, one way you could do that is by using what's called a text widget. And you would actually have to drag that in, and then you would have to actually type out your HTML code or get your HTML code another way. But a really cool plugin that I like to use that will take care of that for me and actually allow me to use the visual editor within my widget areas is a plugin called Black Studio TinyMCE. So I'm going to go to under Appearance, or actually I'm going to go to Plugins and click on Add New. And then I'm going to search for Black Studio TinyMCE. Let's see here. That TinyMCE needs to be one word, I believe. There we go. Black Studio TinyMCE. And this is the one I want right here. Click on Install Now. Click on OK. And then we need to activate the plugin. Click on Activate Plugin. Alright, now if I go back to Appearance and click on Widgets, and you should have this Black Studio widget now showing up in your available widgets. So I'm just going to click, hold, and drag, and I want to put this, I'm going to drag it up above my Pages widget, let go of that, and make sure you're using the visual editor here. First thing I'm going to do is paste in some text that I've got here. Alright, and then I'm going to select that text, and where it says paragraph, I'm going to click on that and change this to a heading 3, and that's going to make it bigger and bolder. And then with it still selected, I'm going to click on this link icon, and I could copy and paste the link, but I'm going to link this to my About page so I can use this shortcut here. Click that. That'll add the link, the URL in automatically. Click on Add Link. Alright, and then I'm going to add an image beneath this, so I'm just going to click Enter on the keyboard. And I want to use the same image that I used on my About page, so I don't have to upload it again. I'm just going to click on Add Media, and instead of uploading it, it's already in my media library. So I'm going to click on that, and click on Insert into Post. And actually, before we do that, scroll down, and we need to change our display settings. So I'm going to change this alignment. I don't want it aligned left, I just want it to be none. So I'm going to do that, and I do want the full-sized image, and I do want to link this image also to my About page. So I'm going to click on Link, and I'm going to change that to Custom URL. And then I need to go back to the front end of my site, and we are on the About page. So I'm going to copy that URL, go back in, and paste it in there. Make sure you don't put HTTP in there twice. That looks good. Click on Insert into Post. Alright, and of course we could always click this and click on this image icon to edit those settings right here by the alignment and the link. But we have it the way we want it. And then I'm going to come down here, and this is an example of the visual editor giving me some trouble. I'm trying to access beneath the image and it's not letting me, so I'm going to click on the HTML tab, come down and add the and symbol NBSP semicolon, and go back over, and now I should be able to click there. There we go. And then I'm going to copy and paste in some other text here. Just paste that, and then I want Hueman to be a link to the Hueman website. So I need to go back, and I'm just going to click on this tab. That way it pulls up the URL for me, and I can just copy that, go back to my widget and paste that in there, and click on Add Link. And then I'm going to save. That's going to save this widget. And now if I go to the front end of my website, go back and refresh the page, we should have our custom widget showing up there. There we go, just like that. And this actually doesn't look good with a caption because it doesn't put that nice border around the image. So I'm going to remove the caption that we had by going back, clicking on this, clicking on that icon, and then I'm just going to take out that right there. Click on Update and click on Save. Now if we refresh, there we go. So we should have, this should be clickable, and that should link us to the About page. Alright, and then this image will also link us to the About page, which of course we're already on. And this, when you hover over Hueman, that should link us to the Hueman page. There we go, just like that. And actually, let's do a couple of things. Let's remove this space here, and I'm going to underline Hueman so that people know it's a link. And let's just do that real quick. I'm going to go back to my widget, click there, and then click on the backspace button. And then for Hueman, it's underlined here in our visual editor, but it's not on the front end of our site. So I'm going to highlight that and click on this underline icon. And then I'm going to save that. And then go back and refresh the front end of my site. There we go. That looks good. Alright, now let's go back and add widgets to our footer widget areas by going back to the back end, and we can just scroll up and minimize that by clicking that arrow. Now the first thing I want to do is basically add the same, actually exactly add the same thing we just created to our footer. So to do that, I'm going to open that widget back up that we've already created, click on the HTML tab, and then I'm going to select all of this HTML, copy that. And I'm going to minimize that, and I'm going to drag another Black Studio widget into our footer area, and actually I need to lower that so that that's available. Then drag that, click, hold, and drag, and release that in right there. Switch to the HTML tab since the code that we copied was HTML, and then paste that in there. And then you can select the visual tab again and scroll down and click on save. Alright, and then I'm going to minimize that. And then after we create our blog posts, we'll add a blog categories widget to footer 2. But for now, let's add a search widget to footer 3. Make sure you click on that arrow to drop the widget area down, and then drag that search widget in, release that, and then click the arrow to minimize that. And then I'm going to add my logo to beneath the search widget in footer widget area 3. And to do that, I'm going to use the Black Studio widget again. Drag that in under my search widget. And then I'm going to click on Add Media. And I'm just going to click on the logo that I've already uploaded to my site and click on Insert into Post. And click on Save. And what's really cool, obviously this logo is a lot bigger and would be too big for that widget area because it's only going to take up a third of the footer because we have 3 footer widget areas. But it's going to resize that for us. Make sure that's saved and then go back to the front end of our site. We'll scroll down and refresh. And look what happens. I want to point this out. Everything looks good except for what we thought was our footer widget 3 is showing up, those widgets are showing up in footer widget area 2. And the reason for this is because if we go back and minimize all this, we have footer widget area 2 is blank, and WordPress for some reason doesn't like that when you have one in the middle that's blank. So we're going to drop that down and just drag a blank text widget in for now. Here we go, save that, and now we'll replace that text widget with a blog categories widget in a moment, but for now let's refresh that, and there you go. Alright, let's talk about adding social media links in this area right here where it says follow. To do that, let's go back to the back end and we're going to go to Appearance, Theme Options, and you're going to click on Social Links. And we don't have any by default, so we're going to click on Add New. And this one we'll say is going to be a Facebook link, so we'll just click on, or we'll type in Facebook. And then the icon, this is a really cool feature of this theme. We can click here where it says View All, and we can actually pick our icon from all the many icons available to us on this page. I'm going to scroll down all the different types of social media, all kinds of things we could choose from. You can just look around and find what you like, but I like where it says FA Facebook. That's the one I'm going to use. So FA Facebook, we're going to type it in exactly as it is there. So it's FA-Facebook. Alright, and then the link, you would just want to go to your Facebook page in this case, copy and paste the URL into this spot. I'm just going to use facebook.com. And then I'm going to leave the icon color set to the default, but you could click here and select your color. And then you could open this in a new window. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. And I'm going to click on Save Changes. Alright, and then I could always remove that by clicking this red icon here. And then I'm going to add another one real quick. And this one will be Twitter. I type in Twitter and then FA Twitter, I believe, is the one that is the Twitter icon. Let's see, FA. That should be on there. I'll just try it and make sure it works. If it does, then we know it's right. There we go, and I'm going to link this to Twitter. Again, you would just want to copy and paste your Twitter feed URL right there. And I'm going to leave the other options set to default and click on Save Changes. Alright, now if I go back to the front end of my site and refresh, there we go. We have the Twitter icon and the Facebook icon, and if we click on these, it'll take us to whatever the URL is you put in. In our case, just the Facebook page. Alright, there we go. Alright, now let's set up our blog, and we'll talk about exactly what a blog and blog posts are. And to do that, let's go back to our theme options, or our backend rather, and then we're going to go back to settings and click on reading. Now we've been here before when we first got going on our website, but I didn't really go over this because I wanted to wait until we actually set up our blog, because I think you'll understand it a lot better that way. Now a static page here that we've got selected for our front page. A static page is what you think of when you think of a traditional web page. It would be something that doesn't change very often, such as our about page or the contact page, and all the pages we've created so far are considered static pages. Now we've chosen to use our welcome page as the static front page for our website by choosing front page displays right here, a static page, and then dropping down from the list of pages that we've created and making sure that the welcome page was selected. Now a posts page here, this is what you think of when you think of a blog. A posts page starts out as a normal page, a normal static page, but you tell WordPress that you want that page to display your latest blog posts. In our case, we created a page, just a normal static page we created, and we called it blog. Then we came in here and we told WordPress that we wanted the page we created called blog to be our posts page. Now when people click on our blog page, they're taken to our posts page, which is going to show our latest blog posts. Now I know that's confusing, but let me show you what I'm talking about and I think you'll understand that. If we go back to the front end of our site and then click on our blog page, this is what it looks like. Now this right here is actually a featured blog posts option that comes with the Hueman theme, and different themes will have different blog options. We're going to go over this in detail later on here in just a moment. But this is the sample blog post, and this is what comes with WordPress by default. Just like we had a sample page, we also have a sample post. So before we add our posts, we're going to actually delete this, but let me go back here. And let me point out, as we add our own blog posts, they will appear on this page, and you'll get to see that happen as we add those. Now if we go back, basically, I just want to point out, if you did want your blog page to be your front page, we decided we wanted our welcome page to be our front page, then you would just select that option there. But we're going to keep it as it is there, and make sure, by the way, if you do make changes on this page, you scroll down and save the changes there, okay? Alright, let's add our blog posts, and let's go to posts, all posts, and delete that sample post first. And to do that, we'll do it just like we did with the sample page. We'll check it there, and we didn't even have to check it. Actually, you can just hover over and click on trash. And that doesn't actually delete it, that puts it in the trash folder. And now we're going to add our first blog post, and we're going to do that by going to add new. And you want to give your blog post a title, and we're going to call this one London blog post. And then I've got some content that I'm going to paste in here. I want to switch to the visual editor, and this works exactly like the visual editor for our pages. Just going to copy and paste this text in. Alright, and then I want to add a featured image, and that way our blog post will be associated with this image, and this image will show up as a thumbnail in multiple places on our site. So to do that, we're going to come down to featured image, click on set featured image, and we're going to upload a file. Now I'm going to grab one of the original files that I got from Pixlr, and this is the 1280 pixel wide file. And the reason I'm doing this and not resizing it with Pixlr is because our theme, the Hueman theme, will actually resize this image for us and make different sizes for the different thumbnails that we're going to have on our site. So it's good to upload a fairly large file for the featured images. Alright, and I am going to actually give this one a caption, and I'll show you why in a moment. And I'm going to click on Set Featured Image. And then I'm going to add a category, and categories are a great way to keep your your content, the content of your blog posts organized. And to add a category, we can just click on Add New Category, and we're going to call this European Cities. And we're going to click on Add New Category. And that's going to bring it up there, and we can uncheck or check, and we can add as many categories as we want, and we can assign any blog post to multiple categories if we choose to do that. I'm just going to leave it like that for now, and then I'm going to come up and click on Publish to publish the blog post. Alright, and now if we go back and take a look at our blog page and refresh it, you'll see that we have our featured image showing up here in this section that we're going to discuss when we discuss the Hueman blog settings. This is a featured post, and then we have the excerpt from our post right here. And if we click on this, the title, London blog post, it's going to take us to the actual blog post page where we have the title, the author, the date that it was published, and then the actual content of the blog post. And then we have this discussion and this social media sharing functionality that we're going to discuss. And now I'm going to show you a trick. If you want your featured image to show up above the content of your post, then you can do this. And I'm going to go back to the post editor. And this only works for blog posts. This doesn't work for pages. If you want to make this an image post, check that and then click on Update. And now if we come back and refresh the page, we get our featured image showing up with the caption that we put in just like that. It's pretty cool. I think it looks really clean when you do it that way. So just an option that you can do that, or that you can use if you choose to do that. Now let's add our other two blog posts, and to do that we're going to go back to the back end of our site, and we're going to go to Posts, Add New, and you could also do Add New right there, just like we did with pages. Either way. And this one we're going to call Chicago blog post. And then I'm going to paste in the content that I have for this post. Paste it in there. Then I'm going to scroll down and add a featured image. Click on Set Featured Image. I'm going to upload the original file from Pixlr. I'm not going to worry about a caption or anything for this one. I'm just going to say Set Featured Image. And then I'm going to set a new category, add a new category. So click on Add New Category, and I'm going to call this American Cities. And click on Add New Category. And then I'm going to come up and publish this post. Alright, and then I'm going to add new to add a new post, and this will be the final post for this mock website. And I'm going to call this one New York City blog post. Come down and paste in my content for this one. Set my featured image. Upload files, select files, and this is of course a full-sized image from Pixlr. Click on Set Featured Image. Then I'm going to assign this one to the American Cities category right here, just like that. Since we already had it created, we didn't have to create it again, we just had to select it. And then I'm going to click on Publish. Alright, and if we go to All Posts, under Posts, then we have all of the posts that we've created, and we can click on these to edit them. If for some reason you want to change the content, you can do that. If you wanted to add a new category or remove a category, you can do that. Anything that you need to change, you can do that here. Now let's go back and look at the actual blog page now. And it's going to look quite different now. Okay, we have our featured post, and that by default right now is taking on our newest post, so the New York City blog post. And then we have these other two posts that we've created falling beneath it. Okay? Alright, now let's talk about the comments and discussion settings that come with WordPress. I'm going to click on this featured image to open up our New York City blog post, and then I'm going to scroll down. Now since we're logged in, our comment section looks like this. Now if we log out by hovering over our username here at the top right corner, clicking on log out, and then go back to our blog post page and refresh, this is what your comment section is going to look like for your users. Now, if we want to adjust the comment section, or the comment settings rather, I'm going to log back in. Just going to my domain /wp-admin. It's a good reminder of how to do that. Log in with your credentials. You're going to go to Settings and click on Discussion. The first thing I want you to notice is that Allow people to post comments on new articles is checked. Okay, this is important because this means by default, when you publish a new blog post, by default people will be able to post comments. Now, if we unchecked that, then moving forward, all the new blog posts that you created after you unchecked it, and of course scroll down and you would have to save those changes, but all the new changes or all the new posts that you made would by default not have comments enabled. Now you can override that setting, whatever this is set to, you can override that on any particular post by going to the posts editor, by going to posts, all posts. Let's say we wanted to, for whatever reason, we didn't want to allow comments on the New York City blog post. I'm going to open that up there and then scroll down, and actually the discussion options are not showing up. So to make those show up, click on Screen Options, and we need to check Discussion. Okay, now I can click Screen Options again to minimize that and scroll down. Alright, now we have this discussion section here. We could uncheck Allow Comments. Since the default is set to allow comments, we could uncheck that, and that would override the default settings, and then we would of course have to update that. But I'm going to leave it as it is, so I'm not going to update that. I'm going to go back to Settings, Discussion, and point something else out that I think is very important. Right here, comment author must fill out name and email, or actually, that's not what I want to point out. Comment author must have a previously approved comment. That is very important because what this does is it prevents spam. You're going to get a lot of spam comments, and you don't want those to be approved. That's just part of having a blog on the internet. And when people publish a comment for the first time, it's going to show up. If we scroll up in this comment section, if you click on that, then you'll see all the comments that people have posted. And you could hover over them and click on approve, or you could not approve them. And then after they're approved, then those people won't have to wait for approval anymore. Now, something to note about the Hueman theme is that by default, the Hueman theme will not allow comments on pages. Your posts are fine, but your pages won't have comments enabled. So to enable those, if you wanted to, most people wouldn't want to enable comments on their pages, but you could do that by going to Theme Options under Appearance. And then you would click on General, or make sure you're on General. Scroll down to the bottom here, and you would check this box here and save the changes. And then you would be able to override those changes on individual pages just like we did with our blog posts by making sure that the discussion option was checked under Screen Options and then going and making that change and then updating that page. Alright, now let's talk about the blog settings that come with the Hueman theme, and I'm going to go ahead and exit out of these tabs, and then I'm going to open up the front end of my site so we can see what's going on here. I'm going to go to my blog. Okay, I'm going to go back to the back end, and I'm going to go to Theme Options under Appearance and click on Blog, and these are going to be our blog settings. Alright, so we can have a heading and a subheading. So if we add a heading, welcome to the blog, and then our subheading will be take a look around. Alright, I'm going to save those changes. Go back here. Alright, right now we just have the title of our website showing up. When we refresh this page, this is our blog page, we now have our heading and our subheading. So that's what that does. Alright, now the excerpt right here is set to 34 words maximum, and what that means is if we go back to our blog, these right here are excerpts. This right here, That's an excerpt, and these are excerpts. Okay, and by default, the human setting for the excerpt number of characters or number of words is 34, and you can change that by adjusting this slider right here. If you wanted it to be 50 words, a little bit longer, you could do that, but we'll just leave it at 34. And also, I want to show you how to use a custom excerpt, if you want to, that will override this setting. And by the way, this takes the first 34 words, in this case, the first 34 words of each post, and that becomes the excerpt. Now, if you wanted to have a custom excerpt, you would go to the post that you want a custom excerpt for, go to Posts, All Posts, and let's say we wanted a custom excerpt for the New York City blog post. We would do that, go to Screen Options, and make sure that Excerpt is checked, and then minimize Screen Options by clicking there. Scroll down, and right here you can put in a custom excerpt. Alright, and now if I come up here and update that page and go back to our blog and refresh, you'll see that our custom excerpt is showing up for the New York City blog post instead of the first 34 words. Now, I just want to point out, if your excerpt is longer than the 34 words that you set, it's fine. It'll still show however long your excerpt is, because it will override that setting in the blog settings. Okay, let's go back to Appearance, Theme Options, and click on Blog. Let's scroll down, and right here we have 3 featured posts options. Okay, let's go to the front end of our site, and I pointed out earlier that this is our featured posts section. Alright, and right now I want you to notice that it's showing the New York City blog post, which happens to be the last post that we created. If we go back to our theme options, you can see here that our featured post count is set to 1. And because we did not choose a category, it's going to show, by not selecting a category, it will show your latest post from all categories. So our latest post is the New York City post. Alright, now let's see what happens when we change this to 2. I want to show 2, and I want to choose a category. I'm going to choose, since I'm using 2 featured posts and I've got 2 posts in my American Cities category, I'm going to choose that category. And then I'm going to come up and save. When we go back and refresh the page, alright, we now have a slider that you can see there, and it's showing the latest 2 posts from our American Cities category. So if we added another post to our American Cities categories, right now it would then show up and replace the Chicago post that we have, because the Chicago post is the oldest post, so that one would be replaced. Now, if we didn't want to use this option at all, we could go back, and in our blog settings we could come down and change this to 0 and refresh that page, or save the changes and then come back and refresh. Then that would just do away with the whole featured option. But I'm going to leave it set to 2. And then this option right here, if we check this, then the posts that are featured in our featured area in our slider, in our case the 2 American Cities posts, if I check that, then they will now show up. Let me refresh that, save these changes, and now refresh that. Alright, now we have the 2 American Cities posts, the New York City and the Chicago posts there, but we also have them down here. Alright, now if we didn't want those down here, we would just leave this unchecked, and this theme, if you read here, it says that it's usually not recommended to show them in both places, and that's because then you have them showing up twice. But if you did want them to show up twice, and for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to leave it set that way. I'm going to keep it checked because I want them to show up here and in the slider. Alright, let's scroll down, and this option right here, the thumbnail count option, that's going to affect these little icons right here, and this is just going to be your comment count. So if you have comments on your blog post, it'll show how many people have commented there. If you wanted to uncheck that, you would just click there to disable that. And I'm going to do that, save the change, and refresh. And you can see those disappear. And then I'm going to open my New York City post, And right here, these are the social sharing options that the theme comes with by default. And this is different from what we set up here, where you would link to your social media pages and people could click on these icons and go to your social media page. This is for people being able to share your blog post content on their own social media networks, which is a great way to get your content out there. And to disable that, if for whatever reason you wanted to disable that, you would go back to your blog options, scroll down, and you could do that here, but I'm going to leave those enabled. And you could associate a Twitter username if you had one that you wanted to associate there. And then the single related posts right here, we've got that set on the default, which is related by categories. If we come back and take a look at our New York City blog post and scroll down, right here you may also like, and it's got the other post in our American cities category. We could disable that if we wanted to, or we could, if you were using tags, you could set that to tags, but I like to leave it on categories. And then the single post navigation, we've got it set on the default, which is sidebar primary. If we come back, this is the navigation, and you could disable that if you chose to do that. But I think that's a good way for people to be able to easily look at your new content. So I'm going to leave that on the default, and I'm just going to save this in case we made any changes there. Alright, so those are the blog settings. Alright, now that we've got our blog settings and our blog set up, let's go ahead and add our blog categories widgets. Go to Appearance and click on Widgets. And then I'm going to scroll down here, and right here on the left is the categories widget. I'm going to click, hold, and drag, and I'm going to put this underneath my pages widget on my primary sidebar widget area. And you can give it a title if you want to. I'm just going to leave it the way it is, and I'm going to click on Display as a drop down. I like the effect that has, so I'm going to click on Save. And then I'm going to come over to my Footer 2 widget area, click on the arrow to drop that down, and then I'm going to click, hold, and drag this text layer, or this text widget over here, let go, and that's going to remove that. And then I'm going to drag a categories widget in place. And also, and I'm actually not going to show this one as a drop down, just so you can see the difference. And make sure that's saved. And now if we go back and refresh our site, you'll see that we have a nice drop-down categories widget with our 2 blog categories, and your other categories, if you had additional categories, they would be added automatically when you created them. And if we clicked on American cities, for example, that's going to automatically take us to a page that shows all the blog posts in that particular category. So we have 2, so they're showing up there. And then our footer widget, we've got the categories showing up as a list, and that's just the default since we didn't select to use the drop-down. Now let's talk about some advanced layout and widget area options that the Hueman theme has. And let's go back to the back end to our widget area. I'm going to minimize these so we can see everything cleanly. Now remember, we're using the default layout that we set up in our theme options was to have the primary sidebar on the right, to the right side of our content. That means that the secondary sidebar is currently not used, and the secondary widget area is currently not used. So what we can do, let's say we want to have different widgets that show up on the sidebar for our blog page and blog related pages. So our blog page and our posts pages, we want to have different widgets showing up than the rest of our site. Since we're not using this secondary widget area, what we could do is come back and go to Appearance and click on Theme Options, and then click on Sidebars. What we could do is change some settings for the blog page and for our single posts page. Now remember earlier when we went over this, the home page is not necessarily referring to your home page. It's referring to your blog page. So if your blog page is set up as your home page, then yes, it is your home page. But this will always refer to your blog page. It's kind of confusing, and I wish they would change that, but that's just the way it is. So if we wanted our home page, this is our primary, is home primary, and then we have is home secondary. Well, our layout says that we have a primary sidebar on the right, and by default it's going to show the widgets that are in the primary widget area. Now, if we wanted to change this, we could click here and say, I want to show the widgets that are in the secondary widget area on my primary sidebar for the blog page, which is, in this case, it says is home. That's the blog page. And we're not going to worry about the secondary sidebar since we don't have a secondary sidebar, since we're not using that layout. And then for the single posts, those are our blog posts. I want to do the same thing. I want to show the widgets that are in my secondary widget area, which we have not added yet, by the way. We're going to do that in just a moment. But go ahead and set those. So you have the home page, which is our blog page. The blog page is showing the secondary widgets in the primary sidebar, and the single posts pages are showing the secondary widgets in the primary sidebar. Let's go up and click on Save Changes. All right, now I'm going to go back to Appearance, Widgets, and I'm going to click to drop down my secondary widget area, and I'm going to drag in this ALX tabs widget. And this is, again, this is unique to the Hueman theme. It's a really cool blogging widget, and you'll be able to see what it does. And I'm going to show recent posts, most popular posts, and I'm going to disable the recent comments, and I'm not using tags, so I'm going to disable tags by checking that. And then I'm going to click on Save. All right, so I'm going to minimize that by clicking the arrow, and then I want to use an ALX posts widget, and I'm just going to leave that to the default. Click on Save just to make sure that saves. Then I'm going to minimize that by clicking the arrow, and then I'm going to drag in another blog categories widget underneath. Let go of that, and I'm going to display this as a drop down and click on Save. Okay, and then minimize that. Now what's going to happen when we go back to the front end of our site and we click on our blog, it's going to show the widgets in our secondary widget area. So now we have this ALX tabs widget, which is really cool. What this does, this is the recent posts option that we have checked, so it's going to show the recent posts that we've created, and then you can click here and access the popular posts, and in our case they're the same. And then we have this ALX posts widget right here that's showing our posts, and then we have our blog categories widget. Now if we go back to any other page, like our contact page for example, it's going to show the widgets that's in our primary widget area. And just to show you, if we go back to the blog and we click on any individual post, it will also show the widgets in our secondary widget area because we assign that the secondary widgets to be showing up for the blog posts pages and the blog page. Alright, I know that's confusing. You might need to watch that a couple of times because there's a lot of different things in there, but let's go back to the back end of our site. Alright, so what if you're using a layout that utilizes the primary and the secondary sidebar, so that this area, this widget area, the secondary widget area, wasn't available to you? What you can do is under Appearance, click on Theme Options, and we're actually going to create an additional widget area. To do that, go to Sidebars, and right here we're going to actually create a widget area and by clicking on Add New, and I'm going to call this Additional Widget Area 1. Scroll down, and I'm going to give it an ID of AWA1, Additional Widget Area 1, and then I'm going to click on Save Changes. Okay, now when I go back under Appearance and click on Widgets, I've got this Additional Widget Area 1 showing up. So let's drag in just a blog categories widget. First I need to drop that down so that it's available by clicking the arrow. Alright, drag that in, and we'll just display it at the default. I'm just going to use this as an example. Okay, so we've got that blog categories widget in there, but we haven't assigned this widget area anywhere. Now this is where I want to show you how you can override any particular post or page's settings by going to that. Let's just use the home page for our example. Go to that page by clicking on All Pages under Pages. Let's open up our welcome page, and again you can do this with any blog post or any page. and click on Screen Options, and you want to make sure that your page options are checked, okay? And then click on Screen Options to minimize that. Scroll down. All right, right here, these settings right here, you can do this on any post or page. Let's say we wanted our home page, for whatever reason, we wanted to have a left sidebar. Okay, so this is by default. If we did that, it would show the primary sidebar, the widgets that were in the primary widget area on the left. Okay, but let's say we wanted to show the widgets that were in the widget area we just created, the additional widget area 1, which right now the only thing we have in there is a blog categories widget. So we would select that there and then come over here and click on Update. And this is going to override any default settings that we've already made in our theme options settings. Let's go back to our front end, click on the logo to access the home page. Alright, and now you see that we have the sidebar showing up on the left, but it's not displaying the primary widget area widgets, it's showing the ones that are in the widget area we created, widget area, additional widget area 1. Alright, but I'm going to go back and change that and just leave that on the default setting by clicking the X and leaving that unselected by selecting Choose Sidebar, and then come up and update the page. Now if I refresh my home page, it should be back to normal. Alright, and then I want to show you, if you go back to the back end, now that we've created that additional widget area, if you go to Appearance, click on Theme Options, and click on Sidebars, when we assigned our secondary widget area to the primary sidebar for our blog page and for our single posts page, you could also do that with the additional widget area that you've created. It would now appear in this list. But we will leave that on the secondary, and we don't need to save that. Alright, that wraps that up. Hopefully you learned a lot, and don't forget to like the video on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, add the video as a favorite, be sure and share the video with your friends and family that might be interested in creating a website, and stay tuned, and I'll see you next time.